Hello everyone. The topic of today's video is conjunctions. The first of the aspects, of course. And depending on schools, you can have a conjunction that where planets are apart 8 or 10 degrees. And of course, in karmic astrology, because we are dealing with so many celestial objects, we only allow 5 degrees, maybe 6 if it's the luminaries and when the conjunction is applying. We're going to talk about applying and separating conjunctions in a minute, but let's take a look at how we interpret conjunctions. Think about any celestial planet. Think about its archetype, its behavior patterns, its the meaning it carries, and try to match it up with any other and do the same with the other one as well. And you will realize very soon that some pairs work brilliantly, they like each other, they get along quite well. And then sometimes there are big antagonism between the two. So that is why when we talk about conjunctions and we say that this is some kind of fusion, we need to add that this fusion might be quite happy or quite difficult or burdensome. The orb in karmic astrology is only 5 degrees. I know that there are many astrological schools that allow a lot bigger orb or wider orb. But since we are working with so many celestial objects, we only allow 5 degrees. And let's take a look at the March 1st chart. And there are a number of really tight conjunctions. First of all, if you take a look around, if you take a look at any of the charts on that day around noon, you will see that the sun, of course, will be on the midheaven. This happens, of course, every day. The sun crosses the midheaven. It's actually the midheaven that crosses the sun, but let's put it this way. And then Pallas Athena will be rising on March 1st if you set a noon chart. And Pallas Athena, of course, is the wise girl. She is Zeus's daughter, who is actually born to Zeus because Zeus swallows her mother, Metis, and so she is coming out of Zeus's head. She just springs out in full-blown gear, fighting gear with all the weapons and her helmet. And of course, the fact that I selected noon for this particular chart means that the ascendant Pallas Athene will only occur when you also select a noon chart on that day. But you will see this quite often. You will see it in clients' charts. And you need to know, and that's why I left it here, otherwise I would not talk about it, that if you see Pallas Athena rising, it usually suggests that the woman, if it's a woman, even the man, is beautiful, because any goddess on the ascendant will shine through. The ascendant, of course, is your physical body, and anything on the ascendant is really reshaping how you look like and what archetype you become. So Pallas Athena is beautiful, but she also is a single woman. She never has a lover, she never marries, she never has a child. She is the Amazon type. She is the single woman who is capable of living her own life without actual help from a male. And Pallas Athena also strives to do justice. So yeah, the spiritual or social justice warriors you see often have Pallas Athena quite prominent in their charts. At the same time, Pallas Athena is wise. So strike social justice warriors because they are never wise. They are just crazy in many types. I mean, how can you fight for something that you don't understand? There's no such thing as social justice. This is a non-existent phenomenon. There will never be equality because we are different. Okay, so this is something that these people should understand, but of course they aren't. So So they are fighting for a cause that nobody really cares for except for themselves. So that's Palasafina there. It's usually someone who is really wise, who carries wisdom, and at the same time is willing to fight. And this fight is always protection. So it is never never a conquering war. It is more like a homeland security war where you need to defend your own home. As I said, the sun is on the midheaven. That's something that occurs every day at noon, depending on where you are, depending what zone you are. Noon is actually no longer noon anymore, unless you are right in the middle of a time zone. Then you might have it. But here there's also the Saturn-Mercury conjunction. We will talk about it later. Pluto-Hygeia conjunction, and this is really interesting. This five-fold conjunction, starting with Astrea and finishing with Chiron, because here you have a bigger, a wider orb than 5 degrees. But of course, when you have accompanying celestial objects, they are bringing each other together. So, and then the triple conjunction between Aries, Juno, and dark moon Lilith is also something quite really revealing. So let's take a look. Let's take these apart. Let's concentrate first on this five-fold conjunction between Vesta, Astrea, Venus, Jupiter, and Chiron. And let's take a look at their daily motions as well. First, just let's delineate them. Vesta Astrea is still focusing on karma breaking, destiny changing. It will be there throughout the year. I mean, if you take a look between March and November, you will see that they never are 5 degrees more apart. So you can utilize this all year. After November the 2nd, I think the conjunction becomes wider and it falls apart after all. But still, for 10 months, you have it there. Venus is applying to Jupiter, so it's almost there. It's less than 1 degree. They are less than 1 degree apart. And of course, Venus-Jupiter is about luck. It's about Fortuna Minor and Fortuna Major, minor and major fortune. And this is a beautiful conjunction because it simply means that you are lucky, you can hope to create harmony and money and love, and actually in a big way. And then Jupiter Chiron is a funny conjunction because Chiron, whatever Chiron touches, usually means that here you will have major karmic wounds resurface, except for Jupiter, because Jupiter Chiron means that you are able to turn your karmic wounds, Chiron, into gold. You can cash in. And although now you have this triple conjunction of Venus, Jupiter, and Chiron with Jupiter in the middle, but actually Venus will overtake Jupiter and will be conjunct Chiron earlier than Jupiter. So that's why we need to look at the daily motions. At the moment, on March 1st, Venus, it does 1 degree 13 minutes. And the average is, of course, 1 degree. But if you take a look every day, I did this when I was finally acquiring a computer program that I could actually animate. And I realized that usually Venus does around 1 degrees 10 minutes, 1 degrees 15 minutes, or something like that. So we can say that it's really average. Jupiter, on the other hand, does at the moment 13 minutes and 27 seconds, and the average is 5 minutes. So it's almost 3 times faster than average. Chiron is the same as usual, 3 minutes and 3 seconds. The average is 3 minutes. And then Vesta and Astrea are also faster than average because any asteroid orbits around the sun for 4.5 years, 4 years and 2-3 months or so. So their average daily travel is a quarter of a minute, a quarter of a degree. So it's 15 minutes per day. And as you can see, Vesta is almost twice as much. and Austria is twice as fast, and Austria is almost 1.5 than usual. So these are now fast moving. And then this is another interesting triple conjunction. Dark moon is the fastest. Dark moon carries a 3 degree per day daily motion. And Aries, of course, is the slowest. And as you can see, Aries is behind, and Lilith is has already overtaken the other two. And Juno, which is an asteroid, again, it does an average of 15 minutes. So she's in the middle. So it's quite interesting that these three are, according to their position, really personify their speed as well, in a way. Now, Aries is drastically altered outward circumstances. Juno, besides being the spouse, being the significant other, being it signifies a committed, serious relationship. At the same time, it also describes alliances. And to me, Aries-Juno, the Aries-Juno conjunction indicates that some sort of alliance is kind of not falling apart, but is going to be drastically altered. I have no idea what this is going to be. We are going to watch, of course, the news to see if this is something that is happening. And then Dark Moon Lilith Juno signifies the fact that this change, this alteration comes as a surprise, and the person who does it, or the country who does it, doesn't care whether you are going to curse him or it at all. So there's a curse and some falling apart involved in this. I'm going to see what it is. It's always interesting to see the news, how it manifests in the news. Here's another pair of conjunctions. As I said, the sun midheaven is there every day. Even if you don't see the sun, it's going to be there around noon. And for instance, peasants used to have lunch. They used to have their lunch break exactly when the church bells stroke 12, because that was the time before the zone, of course, time zones. That was a time when the sun shone at its brightest. So and in this way, sunlight was kind of blessing their food. Their lunches, so it was an extra blessing. That's why it was, for instance, in Hungary, it was a very, very strong custom. And when the zone times came, of course, it fell apart, unfortunately. But this happened if you look at the last 200 years, it's so funny how everything is really falling apart. Of course, they do this on purpose. They don't want us to have any sacred energy in our lives. It's a long story. I'm not going to tell you because I really want to concentrate on the conjunctions here. And here you see with the Saturn-Mercury, you see a blocking conjunction. Of course, Mercury is much faster. So actually a day and a half later on, by March the 2nd in the evening, Mercury will overtake Saturn and then move into Pisces. So this is a fast-moving planet, and Saturn will still be in, it will only move into Pisces 7 days later, on the 7th actually, so 6 days later at the full moon, not even exactly at the full moon time, because you will see that it is going to be at 29 degrees 59, so it will take another maybe hour or so before, but actually more than an hour, as I remember. Anyhow, so it's an absolutely anaretic position for Saturn. So that's quite interesting. Just one more sentence for Saturn Mercury. Mercury is chit-chatting. Mercury is expressing their views. It's throwing information around and gossiping and whatever. And Saturn is kind of blocking this. And even if it's not a blocking conjunction, so if Saturn is behind Mercury, it's still holding it back. So this particular conjunction is not a very nice conjunction. All the rest so far was nice. especially with you know, the sun on the MC. It simply means someone who wants to shine and is able to shine. He is the boss, he is the ruler, he is someone big and important. But with Saturn Mercury, no, Mercury doesn't like this conjunction, no matter where it is, before or after Saturn. So that's what I was talking about, that it's the participating planets that are telling you whether or not the conjunction is nice. Okay, here we have something interesting that is valid for karmic astrology, probably only. I don't know whether you guys are working with these archetypes that I'm going to tell you now, or these are not really archetypes, these are points in the chart. One is the anti-vertex, and the other one is the prenatal lunar eclipse. Now, the prenatal lunar eclipse, of course, occurs in the womb while the child is still in the womb. And if the pregnancy was regular and, you know, it took 9 months for the child to be born, then you may have actually 2 pairs of eclipses. But we always take a look at the one that is the pair that is closer to the birth, the actual birth. We just disregard the other one. And it's interesting to note here that sooner or later, if you are practicing astrologer, you will find people who were only in the womb for 5 months or even less, and these people might not have prenatal eclipses at all. And then they simply have a karmic significator less than the usual people. This is natural. If you come to think of it, anyone who was born after year 2000 barely has any numbers in his or her numeroscope. Think about the person who was born on 2000, January 1st. All he has is 1, 2, and 2 ones, and the destiny number will be 4, and that's it. So you will run into these people soon, but actually this is 2023. So these people who were born in 2000 are already grown-ups. They are already 23 years old. So that's fascinating to know. So anyhow, the prenatal solar eclipse is something that you want to learn in order to then teach to others. You want to experience it consciously. And the prenatal lunar eclipse signifies either a position or an archetype or an energy pattern that the soul wants to learn or wants to get acquainted with, but it will stay on the instinctual level. So the prenatal lunar eclipse usually doesn't manifest in life, or it doesn't manifest consciously, unless there is a planet conjunct it. And here you see Uranus conjunct the prenatal lunar eclipse. And in this particular moment, it signifies that the incarnating soul wants to experience change. Yeah, you can say it wants to experience chaos and anarchy. It wants to experience revolution. And we see this revolutionary time. There was a horrible attack by Antifa in Hungary. They came from Germany of all places, and started to attack people here in Budapest, just because the way they were dressed. So they didn't do anything, they didn't provoke, they didn't have any weapons, and these animals attacked these innocent bystanders or just totally harmless and also unknown. I mean, alien people, they just attacked them from behind in a pack. 8 people were attacking with weapons, with all kinds of assault weapons, not firearms, luckily. So they survived the attack, and there's no one mentioning. Mainstream media is just not talking about this. There were 3 such attacks in Hungary, in Budapest. We have a very peaceful place. I mean, the whole Hungary is peaceful and natural and orderly. And of course, the West hates us because we still have order and we still know our spiritual and national values. And they just wanted to do disorder. And of course, finally they couldn't, because our police, which is not defunded, and actually we value and we honor our policemen. They just took these people into custody, and so it is being resolved finally, but it's ridiculous. So some people do want a revolution because then they can kill, then they can draw blood, and some people are really bloodthirsty. So that's one thing. The other one, the anti-vertex, is a point opposite the vertex. And of course, the vertex means the point of no free will, whereas the anti-vertex is the point where you can exercise free will. In this particular case, you have the anti-vertex conjunct Sedna. Sedna, it means creation through dissection. If you see this, someone who has free will in rearranging his or her life, that's what it signifies, this particular conjunction. Okay, let's take a look at what else we have here. As I promised, yes, there's the Pluto-Hygeia conjunction. Hygeia is much faster than Pluto. This is a less than 1 degree, 38 minutes of an arc conjunction, so it's very tight. And Hygeia means sacred spaces, to create sacred spaces, hygiene, health, a way of living which is good for the human beings, which is good for everyone. That's what Hygeia suggests, and it is an applying conjunction to Pluto. So it is some sort of transformation which results then in health and sacred spaces. So it's a beautiful conjunction. Hygeia is also an asteroid, so the daily travel is around 15 minutes of an arc. It could be faster than that. And in a couple of days, it will be exactly conjunct, probably 2 days, it will be exactly conjunct Pluto. And then Hygeia will move into Aquarius well before Pluto. But the two conjunctions are, the two such objects are a great conjunction to put things in order. And if you take a look at the noon chart, either in London or in Budapest or in any of the big cities of Europe, you will see a nice planetary picture that is forming is actually within the angles. You see a mystic rectangle between the angles and the Sun and Pallas Athena. The Sun Pallas Athena trine is a very strong trine. It gives you wisdom through, of course, emotions, because it's a water trine, but it gives you strong wisdom and insight into things that you need to do. And there's also a T-square involving the Venus, Chiron, Jupiter triple conjunction. I didn't put here the West Austria because it's slightly out of orbit, and I wanted to show you that this is how a harmonious planetary picture like a mystic rectangle and a stressful planetary picture like a T-square, cardinal T-square, can intertwine and actually create an energy that is both harmonious and stressful, and at the same time you can actually make it work. And some of the transcendental objects that are relevant in this particular configuration, the Sun is on Atropos, which is the third of the Fates, who is cutting the thread of life, or the length of life. On Venus, Jupiter, you have Philosophia, Orpheus, and Laila Kuhona. Philosophia, well, it's philosophy. Orpheus is the guy who went down to the underworld in order to bring his wife back, but he didn't succeed. But still, it's the music that is he uses music to carry the energy and actually to dissolve the discrepancy or the dividing line between the living and the dead. And Laila Kuhona is a TNO, actually an ATNO, so an extreme TNO, and it signifies the human soul's yearning to come back to the earth plane, to fly back to the nest, so to speak. It's a very similar notion that you find in the Kabbalah, where Kether wants to be manifested because he knows that he exists, but he wants to be manifested in material energy. So it comes down in 4 steps. It comes down to the level of Malkut, which is the third dimension, which is the earth plane. And Laila Kohona describes this descent into matter, descent going back to where I belong, because I do belong to the third dimension as a human being. My soul belongs to higher dimensions, but I as a human being belong to the third dimension. So that's on Venus, Jupiter. On Chiron, you have separate aspects because again, with transcendental objects, I only allow 1 degree. You see Shiva, which is the third of the Trimurti, the destroyer. Diana, who is the goddess of the woods and animals. And 2 bright stars, Alderamin and Alpheratz. Alderamin is Alpha Kepheus, the Ethiopian king who needs to save his kingdom, and in order to do that is willing to sacrifice his own daughter. And Alpheratz, which is one of the healing words for suicide victims, it's not the main healing word, so it's not the fresh suicide victims are taken there. It is the ones who are ready to come back to the earth plane. And because Alpheratz is where they learn how to move again freely, how to have free will, how to exercise free will for a good reason, a good cause in a good sense. And Chiron at the moment is between these 2 stars, between the degrees of these 2 stars, because Alderam is around 12 degrees and Alpheratz is about 14 degrees. So Chiron is between, and both it joins both ends of the orbit, so to speak. And then on Pallas Athena, you have Eheclus and Xi Gemini, which is Al-Zir. We are going to look at it. This is a star that I haven't mentioned yet, so we are going to look at it in detail. And Eheclus is a centaur that is describing dilemmas about truth and reality. Whether my truth, what I consider truth, is the true reality. Please don't remain in your own bubble. Please talk to people who have a different opinion about things. Try to discuss it. Don't allow your own opinions divert you from getting another truth and listening to someone else's truth. This is important because this is how we learn. And on the IC, there's Zosmas. Zosma is at 12 degrees Virgo. So if you might or might not have this, but let's take a look at Al-Zir in a minute. And here you are. It's one of the feet of Pollux. The other one is Alhena. And as you can see, both are on the Milky Way as well. So here, the constellation Gemini, it's very unique because you have a constellation that is a zodiacal constellation. So it's part of the hero's journey. And at the same time, they are also the feet are on the Milky Way, which is the path of the gods. And it's actually the feet that you can exercise these energies. Now, there are a number of other important fixed stars in this region of the sky. It's quite star-studded if you take a look. First of all, here's Orion. And you have the 2 shoulders, Betelgeuse, which is a very bright star and denotes success without any hindrance, and Bellatrix, which is a much dimmer star, and it describes success through the shadow. Within one constellation, you might have, it's usually the Alpha and the Beta, or 2 stars that are very close to each other that serve as counterparts for each other. Because here Rigel is the Beta star, which is the second brightest one, but Rigel is the foot of the pharaoh, so it describes responsibility and teaching. Sirius is the brightest star of the in the sky. It's actually it radiates sacred energy. And if you take a look at Procyon, which is the alpha star of the little dog, and Sirius is the alpha star of the big dog. Here you see 2 stars which are in separate constellations but I consider them as one because they really kind of are linked to each other. First of all, big dog and little dog has this connotation already that, of course, it's always the big dog that needs to win or needs to be prominent, and the little dog is just coming after it. And Procyon is really kind of overshadowed by Sirius, although it's a very, very bright star. It's a very bright and shining star. And the two are in a funny relationship because Sirius, of course, is unlimited success and sacred energy, and it's linked also to water and fire magic in many ways. But then Procyon is again a shadow energy, and it indicates, if Procyon is prominent, it indicates that no matter how shiny and bright you are, no matter how powerful and proficient you are, you need to understand that there are always people who are going to overshadow you, who are even going to be brighter and smarter and bigger and better than you. So this is the big lesson, that no matter how good I am, there will be someone who is even better than me. That's the lesson of Procyon. And then here you see Castor and Pollux, the two bright stars, Alpha and Beta star of Gemini. Okay, so that was it. That was March conjunctions at the 1st of March. And I wish you happy March. I hope that the things that bother me, for instance, the Juno-Aries conjunction with Dark Moon Lilith thrown in, is not going to show something really ugly. And I also hope that our mouth are not going to be shut, that we are not going to get this restraining order or gag order, because Saturn Mercury is some sort of gag order, really. That's how the blocking conjunction is working. And we are going to be able to say our truths, and are going to be able to tell the young ones that it's not what they think, and revolution is not a nice and not a bright idea. It's a horrible idea. I just hope I spent half my life in a communist country. I know what communism is. It's not a good idea. And when you hear that, oh yeah, but it never actually, what they did so far was never actually the true thing. Yes, there was a true thing. As Margaret Thatcher said, the problem with communists is that sooner or later they run out of other people's resources. And that's the problem. If you don't create, you can actually just take other people's things. You need to learn to create. And that's the big lesson of today's politics, I think. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.